Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president of JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, powered by JDog and Vet TV. Our podcast gives veterans, male spouses, active military members, and military family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure from their past that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I have the amazing pleasure of speaking with Zachary Green. Zachary Green is an award-winning entrepreneur, best-selling author, Marine Corps veteran, as well as a former lieutenant with his local fire department. After serving in the Marine Corps for 8 years, Zachary founded MN8 LumAware / Foxfire, where he was awarded Entrepreneur of the Year by the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, as well as being selected by the SBA as Exporter of the Year for Ohio and receiving the President's E Award for exporting. Zachary combined his experiences from the Marine Corps, firefighting service, and as an entrepreneur to write the book Warrior Entrepreneur, which quickly became an international bestseller on Amazon. On top of all of this, Zachary is a member of the United States Marine Corps Parris Island Living History Detachment and participates monthly in the Crucible and Eagle Globe and Anchor Ceremony at Marine Corps Recruit Depot as he represents historical Marines of World War I. Wow, that sounds really interesting. So welcome, Zach. Thanks for agreeing to come on Tactical Treasures and share your story.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And I had to take the call out outside today. It's so beautiful out. I wanted to enjoy the weather. So I apologize for any background noise that we've got here.
Oh, no worries. No worries. It's a, beautiful landscape behind you. It's awesome. It is a beautiful day. Could you tell us a little bit about your military service and what inspired and led you to join the Marine Corps?
You know, it's funny. Everyone in my family, not a single person in my family was in the military. My parents were so anti-gun growing up that they didn't even let me have squirt guns playing up as a kid. And,
wow,
you know, I knew from a very early age I wanted to be a Marine. Literally, I was 10, 11 years old, taking old recruiting magazines and posters and plastered them all over my room. And my parents weren't looking. I was running around the woods, taking branches and turning them into machine guns and reliving battles while my friends were out playing soccer and football. And I had to wait till the exact day I was 18 because they wouldn't sign and join the Marine Corps. And it was one of those things that, you know, it was almost, I liked it too much because I remember when we would be on Liberty, I'd be wearing all my Marine Corps bright red satin, jacket and Marine Corps shorts. And they're like, dude, don't wear all the Marine stuff. We don't want everyone to know we're all Marines when we're going out here. But I was so excited about finally being a Marine. I could never tone it down.
Wow. That's awesome. I love it. Is there a particular aspect of your service that stood out to you as being especially impactful?
Absolutely. I mean, I've literally recreated my whole entire profession around exactly that question. And that is, you know, I was a real mama's boy growing up. My mom literally laid my clothes out for me on the end of my bed every day, my senior year of high school. And I get down to Parris Island and I'm serving with guys that literally grew up in the coal mines of West Virginia with dirt floors and kids from Philadelphia that didn't get 3 meals a day. And I couldn't understand why I was doing so poorly and they were all doing so well. And what I learned very quickly is that it's that challenge and that struggle is what makes the warrior grow. And I hadn't had that. And it was very difficult because I'm 18 years old. I'm very arrogant, very elevated sense of self, I guess is what they call it now. And I was failing. And these kids that didn't have near the background that I had with my family and the opportunities that I had were doing great. And I'll never forget that moment happened when I was singled out because I messed up doing the drill. Everyone turned left. And of course, I turned right. And the drill instructor put me aside and started giving me what we call incentive training, which is basically punishment with push-ups and sit-ups. And I'll never forget, he leaned over and he said, "Your mama's not here to help you." And I started to cry uncontrollably. I curled up in the prenatal position. I started to see that abyss open up in front of me. And that was the turning point in my entire life. Was at that point I went ahead and shed my former self as a civilian, as someone that was soft and spoiled, and decided I'm going to embrace this warrior ethos. And it was, that was 30 years ago, but I think about almost daily of that transition that helped me to move from being a civilian to being a warrior.
Wow. Wow. That's an incredible story. That's amazing. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We are currently speaking with Zachary Green, who is an award-winning entrepreneur, best-selling author, Marine Corps veteran, as well as a former lieutenant with his local fire department. Zachary Green's life experiences in the military, firefighting service, and as an entrepreneur helped him realize that these careers have a lot in common. They entail risk, struggle, grit, and bravery. The idea behind Warrior Entrepreneur revolves around preparing for your crucible, a turning point in your life that changes your forward trajectory. Warrior Entrepreneur shows how your crucible can help you achieve the best of what life has to offer. Warrior Entrepreneur can be found for purchase on Amazon in physical, Kindle, and Audible form, as well as on the website warriorentrepreneurbook.com. If you would like to connect with Zachary personally, you can go to warriorleader.us. There you can see his book. You can also look into his consulting services and the Warrior Academy. And so check it out. Back to the podcast. Post-service, you founded MN8 LumAware / Foxfire. Could you take us through that journey in founding that business?
Sure. So, I got out of the Marine in the 90s. It just wasn't a great time to be in the military. There was a lot of downsizing. It was during the Clinton era. And
Right.
2 years after I got out, September 11th happened. And I just felt horrible that I had left. I had a lot of survivor's guilt. So I became a volunteer firefighter. Now, my full-time job was at Eli Lilly. I did brand development and marketing for billion-dollar brands, learned a lot about how to build a brand and to sell and to grow a company. And I got lost in a fire very early on in my career as a firefighter. And it was very horrifying not being able to know where you were and disoriented. Wow. And as I got out, I remember what I learned from my brand manager at Lilly, that it's not about your product. It's about the solution that you solve. At JDog, you're not simply hauling product away. You're solving a problem for somebody, and you happen to help solve that problem. And you show them that they have a problem that they may not know and how you can solve that. And so for me, the problem was when it's dark out, you get disoriented. You can't find your way around in the dark. So I remember back when I served in the Marine Corps, we had these little glow-in-the-dark tabs on the back of our helmets. And I figured, what if I could apply that technology to firefighting technology? And ended up creating a couple different prototypes, started selling it out of the trunk of my car, made about $5,000 in 6 months. And my fire chief sat me down and said, Zach, you've got something that's going to revolutionize the fire service. You need to treat this more than a hobby. And I remember a quote from Teddy Roosevelt. He said, when you're faced with a monumental decision, the best thing to do is the right thing. The next best thing to do is the wrong thing. But the worst thing to do is nothing. And so I went to a trade show. In 3 days, I booked $100,000 in sales. The problem was I had no money left. I had no way to produce the product. I had no way to ship it, manufacture it. And everyone's like, Zach, you got to start taking these orders. You got to start refunding orders. And I looked at him, I said, screw you. I'm a Marine. We always accomplish our mission. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. And over the next couple of years, a lot of ups, a lot more downs, dodged bankruptcy multiple times, but eventually turned it into about a $30 or $40 million company. And what I learned during that journey was what I learned in the Marine Corps, that the only way to get better is to struggle and to go through those challenging moments that I'm sure you and Jerry had in those early years.
Oh, yeah.
As you get stronger now, when these big challenges come up now, because you still got the same problems, you just add more zeros to it now. But you've got that rhino skin that you've developed from going through all those difficulties in those early years.
Yeah. 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 We know what that's like. So yeah, you just got to keep on plugging along and believe in what you're doing, and believe that there's a solution and a way get the job done. So what exactly, how big was the product? Because I remember I saw you at the Veteran Shark Tank in Philadelphia, and you gave me a challenge coin that from LumAware that actually glows in the dark. It was amazing. I thought it was awesome. So what was the product actually? What did it look like?
Yeah, so basically I developed a process of using these glow-in-the-dark crystals to make them glow really bright for a long period of time in different materials. The first product was a silicone helmet band that was very high temperature resistant that would go around your helmet so you could see the other firefighters in the dark.
That's great.
And I just started to raise venture capital. They said, Zach, you got to do more than just firefighters. Well, there's 100 million exit signs in the United States. Every one of those exit signs needs batteries, light bulbs, and electricity. I found a loophole in the code that says exit signs don't have to be electrified. The code only says they have to be visible in the dark for 90 minutes.
Wow.
And I said, what if I use that same technology to apply it to exit signs? And guess what? Now I've got 100,000 firefighters that are using my product. They're my brothers and sisters. They're my brand ambassadors. And through those relationships, I was able to penetrate companies like Kroger's and then eventually hit the jackpot with Home Depot, which is a tremendous company, very veteran supportive, very entrepreneurial mindset. They started not only using my product in their stores, and if you go to a Home Depot, just look up, you'll see a green exit sign that doesn't have any wires. That's my product. And then eventually they started selling it, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Awesome. Next time I'm at Home Depot, I'm checking it out. I love it.
The best thing to do is turn all the lights off in the store. And when you see the glow-in-the-dark exit signs and everyone's panicked, say, that's my friend Zach. He did that.
And then I'll get yelled at. Who the heck turned out all the lights? So I understand you're also looking to launch a new venture called Warrior Academy. Could you talk to us about this venture?
Yeah, it's interesting. I look at where Jerry's been and where I've been on our journey. And the Warrior's journey goes all the way back to Homer and the Iliad, and all the great movies like Star Wars and Harry Potter. And it starts with that young adventurer that thrives and wants adventure. They want something more. People like JDog and myself knew that we probably weren't going to go to 4 years of college and then sit in a cubicle for the rest of our life. We had something more. We were probably getting in trouble. We probably had those things. And eventually you meet a mentor. And that mentor tells you about what life's like on this other side of the threshold. So in Harry Potter, it could have been Hagrid. It could have been Obi-Wan Kenobi for Star Wars. And then you cross that threshold. And I had the distinct honor of spending some time with Jerry in his office. And I remember him opening up the booklet and showing me the very first receipt that he wrote.
Yeah.
That was the threshold when he physically said, okay, I'm actually going to finally take money for what I do. And in my case, my threshold was when I quit my job at Lilly. For Harry Potter, his threshold was when he went to platform 9 3/4 and went from the Muggle world to the new Wizarding world. And when that happens, that's when you transform. And so in the military, it's going off to boot camp. But that's when things get really tough. That's when you start battling the dragons. And that's when you start to learn how to use that grit and tenacity. And you learn the importance of words like courage and integrity and teamwork. And then eventually you have your crucible. And my crucible was when I thought I was going bankrupt. And I literally had a almost like a nervous breakdown. I had a panic attack. And at that point in time, I had to change my trajectory. I had to get rid of all of the bad stuff I had in my past and transform. And what I did was I resigned as CEO of the company I started, and I hired a new CEO. And then at that point in time, the Warrior starts to become more of a visionary. So think of Luke Skywalker once he becomes a Jedi. It's all about teaching and teaching other warriors on how to grow. And then eventually you become a mentor and meet this young new warrior, and you start telling him about what's life's like on the other side of that threshold. And when you go through the journey that you and JDog have gone through and that I've gone through, I'm not at the point where I want to do it anymore. I want to teach other people. And that's the very long answer to your short question on what is the Warrior Academy. I'm getting together with a team of other like-minded individuals. And again, to be a warrior, you don't have to be a veteran. You could be a single mom that just got out of an abusive relationship and want to start your own hair salon. You could be a person that served 5 years in prison and can't get hired, but they want to start their job now.
Right.
And I go through a series of programs of teaching them grit and how to build a company and how to grow a company and scale a company. And then it culminates with 3 days in Gettysburg, where we do some real experiential based experiences around some of the battles of Gettysburg and apply them to business. And then the hope is once you get through that group of those 15 people, they then start their next group. And now we create this community of warrior entrepreneurs, very similar to what Marjorie Eastman did with the Deck of 52 of creating this network of those of us that had that distinct honor. I want to take that to the next level and grow more of these veteran and warrior entrepreneurs out there.
Wow, that's great. I love it. That's really amazing. Hello, listeners and viewers. I want to talk to you about Grunt Style merchandise. I love it. I have a whole drawer dedicated to just Grunt Style shirts. Guess what? There's a reason the flag they wear and we wear on the sleeve always faces forward. Yep, that's because Americans advance in one direction, forward. Our colors don't retreat, and at Grunt Style, we keep to the warrior ethos, always assault forward. This will defend. You also authored a book, too, Warrior Entrepreneur Lessons from the Battlefield to the Boardroom. What inspired you to write the book? Did it come from the Warrior Academy or was it vice versa?
Vice versa. So the book was basically me wanting to write an autobiography. And my publisher said, Zach, unless your name's Oprah Winfrey or, Elon Musk, nobody wants to read your autobiography except your mother.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, you got to tell a story. So I started to look at what made me me and what made other veteran entrepreneurs who they are. And it was a series of steps that they took where they embraced adversity, where they used the challenge and struggle to grow and not to get weaker. It's the opposite of the mindset that we have now in our culture where everyone gets a participation trophy. And as soon as you get challenged, you go off to a safe space. That is so unbelievably detrimental to our culture. Yeah. One of the reasons you get stronger is because you get stressed out. The time to get debate is college. That's not the time to retreat to a safe space where no one challenges you. Right. Because by the time they come work for Tracy and Jerry and they haven't built up that rhino skin and they screw up, they're not going to be able to handle it. And so that's what the book is about. And I started to interview people like Marjorie Eastman and Hans Mum that created that, and people like Elon Musk and like the ancient Spartans and the samurai. And I looked at what makes a warrior a warrior. It's integrity, it's grit, it's tenacity. Serenity is a big thing. Tracy, in the military, we talked, the numbers are anywhere between 21 and 27% of the military identifies as having depression. Do you know what the percentage is for entrepreneurs?
I'm sure. I bet you it's greater.
71%. Yeah. It's a systemic problem we have because if we have problems, we can't share those problems with our employees. We can't maybe share it with our spouse if our spouse isn't in the business like you are. And then when you fail, you lose your whole identity and you could potentially lose your house. And so the stress that comes along with that, it's not for the faint of heart. You've got to use that. And so when I see people that have struggled in their life or have gone in the military and maybe they've had some hard times when they get out, the book is about teaching them how they can learn how to use those strengths and challenges to become stronger and grow, just like the Spartans did, just like the samurai did, just like Elon Musk, who went bankrupt several times before he was able to finally get things turned around with PayPal and SpaceX.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, failure, it's a terrible thing, right? It's a word that nobody wants to hear, right? But, during that time of failing or failure, that's when I think you grow the most as a person, as a business owner. It truly, it definitely builds character. And, rather than looking at the failure, let's look at what you do with it and how you pick yourself up and change course or go on or survive, so there's a lot to be said for that, I think.
Well, and I think there's two ways to look at failure. Number one, it gives you perspective on what is important.
Sure.
Because if things are failing, you realize those important things are relationships, your health, your family. And then the second thing is it gives you clarity. It helps
Sure.
to clear out all that noise and focus on what do I need to get through to just make it to tomorrow. And the warrior uses that chaos as a really great laser, where the non-warrior is going to use that and retreat and just hide and pull back.
Right.
That's not good. And
Yeah.
that's why I like what you just said about how you can embrace failure as a teacher.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, this is, I could talk about this forever. This is great stuff. But let's dive into your tactical treasure. What would you like to share with us today?
So I think it kind of builds off of what we've been talking about, and that is a common saying we have in the military. I hope I can say it. It's called embrace the suck.
Oh, yeah.
And where most people want to avoid it and they want to take the easy route, the warrior is going to embrace it. So, for example, in the military, we may say, okay, we're going to hike up the side of this mountain. And we say, well, that's stupid. We could take a helicopter to the top, or we could get a bus to come up there. But when you hike it and that's harder, you're going to develop so much more, again, of that perspective and clarity and strength. And those are the type of things where it really is important. So in the past, I would avoid those tough conversations with my employees. In the past, I would do things that were easy for me. And then when I realized I wasn't growing as a person or as a leader, I realized that adversity was really a hidden treasure that I didn't even know that was out there. Right. Nobody likes to do it, but that's what really separates the warriors from the common men, is the ones that are willing to put themselves out of their comfort zone and grow in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great treasure. I love it. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Embrace the suck. It definitely gives you perspective and builds strength and character positively. So do you have, I know we've been talking about this, ton of advice here, but if you had one or two little nuggets for your fellow veterans who may be struggling post-service, or they're, struggling with different areas. Do you have one or two little nuggets for them?
Well, I've actually got three, and there's been science to back this up. The first thing that happens when you get out of the military is you stop moving. You're no longer getting up in the morning doing PT. You're no longer becoming more active. We start to have a sedentary lifestyle. And the first thing that you fail on is your health and gaining weight. And I'm guilty of it. And a lot of people I know, as soon as you get out, you immediately start to gain weight. So that creates the first problem. The second problem is you lose your community. Yeah. You lose that group of people that you can talk to and you can share with. We have a really sick sense of humor. We find joy and happiness in things that other people would think that's just disgusting, but we get it. Right. We know it. And sometimes you don't even have to talk to another veteran. You can just sit next to them and be present, and then you can just feel that energy that you get each other. I love your old veteran that's sitting in a wheelchair, and I come up to him and talk to him, and I feel like a connection, like I've known him forever.
Right.
But the third one is the real danger one. And that's the one that really ends up causing the veteran to make that horrible final decision of suicide. And that is a sense of purpose. You need to find a sense of purpose in your life. Your purpose could be like you and me, which is our business and helping to serve others. The purpose could be volunteering at a VA. It could be working with dogs. It could be something. But when you're in the military, we have a very clear purpose. And it's reminded every morning and evening when we stand for colors and the salute the colors, which can kind of be a pain in the when you're on base, but boy, do you miss it when you're out. Yeah. So that the purpose is the important thing. Having your battle buddies that are out there, and then moving, just getting out and walking or getting in the sunshine or exercising or doing something like that. Those are the three things that if you can do that, you've got a good chance of really becoming productive members of society, not just members of societies, but leaders. Part of the mission of the military is not just to defend our country, but it's to create great Americans that can come out after we serve. Yeah. And there's no excuse for a veteran to suffer in silence and to make that ultimate final decision to end their life.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that. They have the responsibility to reach out to others. And those of us that find our brother and sister veterans that are struggling, we have the responsibility to reach out to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yep. That definitely is great advice, Zach. Thank you for sharing that. So your book, where can people find and purchase your book?
So Amazon is always the best place to purchase it. But if you don't want to give Jeff Bezos all that extra profit and you wouldn't mind sending some mine way, warriorontrepreneurbook.com, warriorontrepreneurbook.com. If you do that, I'm more than happy to go ahead and hand sign any books and dedicate it. And I usually throw a couple little extras in there too, if anybody wants to get it through that.
Oh, that's awesome. And can people go to that website and connect with you, reach out to you?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is always a great way to connect, but it's almost become overwhelming now. So the best way to get a hold of me is warriorontrepreneurbook.com, or the other one is my main website is warriorleader.us. And that connects you to my book. It connects you to the consulting work I'm doing, to the speaking that I do. And then obviously the Warrior Academy that we talked about, which is, 15 to 16 veterans that are willing to go on a 4-month journey with me to help revolutionize and change their business.
Wow. Okay. Oh, that's great. Okay. So that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. And Jerry has your book. It's on the windowsill.
I was just going to tell you one of the proud moments, and I really look up to both you and Jerry as my both entrepreneurial role models, but models as a married couple. I know how tough it is to be married for that long, especially when you work together.
Yeah.
And when I see the love that the two of you have, it just really builds my heart. But then also your leadership and the respect you have in your organization, and to go into that office and see my book up on his shelf, it really put a lump in my throat to know that people like you two are maybe I can give you one little tiny nugget of something that may help you out. That just really made my week when I saw that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for your kind words. We do love what we do every day, and how we're helping our veteran community, and yeah, it's crazy, being married. It'll be 20 years next January that we've been married, and we work together. We're literally attached at the hip, and we have a great working relationship, and we still love each other. We're very happy. It's awesome. We're blessed. We're truly blessed.
You are, and the single most important decision you'll ever make in your life is who you have as your spouse. And I will tell you, JDog hit the freaking home run times 12 with you.
Oh, thank you, Zach. You're so sweet. Yeah, well, we always love your visits when you decide to drop in at JDog HQ, and it's really great to see you. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on. It was awesome talking to you.
Well, you too, and thank you for all you do for our fellow veterans. It really, your purpose really comes through in everything you guys do.
Oh, thanks. And you as well. Sounds like you're doing an awesome job out there. So keep it up. That's great.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, where we have just had a wonderful conversation with Zachary Green, who is a Marine Corps veteran, as well as an award-winning entrepreneur and best-selling author. Zachary Green's life experiences in the military, firefighting service, and as an entrepreneur helped him realize that these careers have a lot in common. They entail risk, struggle, grit, and bravery. The idea behind Warrior Entrepreneur revolves around preparing for your crucible, a turning point in your life that changes your forward trajectory. Warrior Entrepreneur shows how your crucible can help you achieve the best of what life has to offer. Warrior Entrepreneur can be found for purchase on Amazon in physical, Kindle, and Audible form, as well as on the website, warriorontrepreneurbook.com. And if you want to connect with him personally, you can go to warriorleader.us and you can connect with him. I think you can even buy the book there and also learn more about the Warrior Academy. We're so happy that you did tune in today and just want to remind you that our Tactical Treasures podcast can be found on all your favorite podcast platforms, as well as Vet TV. And we are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern and Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon on another podcast. Bye-bye now.